World War I was a conflict of staggering human devastation. 14 million people died, consumed by the bleak, muddy reality of trench warfare across Europe. Across the Atlantic, the American public watched the bloodshed and wanted absolutely nothing to do with it. Entering the European fray was deeply unpopular. President Woodrow Wilson recognized this strict consensus. He won his 1916 re-election campaign on a highly successful, straightforward slogan: "He kept us out of war." To the general public, joining the global conflict seemed completely unnecessary. American neutrality was rock solid. Yet, in 1917, Wilson abruptly changed course, plunging the United States directly into the conflict. The domestic consequences were severe. Approximately 270,000 Americans became casualties, and the government rounded up and imprisoned over 1,200 citizens who voiced opposition to the war. Standard history books point to Germany's submarine warfare, the tragic sinking of the massive British passenger ship Lusitania, seen here, and the infamous Zimmermann telegram as the reasons for this reversal. But another set of records reveals a different set of motives. Correspondence from the era indicates that Zionist leaders offered to leverage American support for the war in exchange for British backing of a Jewish home in Palestine. To understand how this deal took shape, we have to look at 1916. It was a disastrous year for the Allies. The British military was suffering 60,000 casualties in a single day. Meanwhile, the Zionist movement recognized they needed a global power to back their territorial ambitions. They had initially approached the Ottoman Empire, whose soldiers are pictured here, but the Ottomans rejected their proposal. The solution came from an American academic named Horace Kallen. In 1915, Kallen proposed using American military intervention as a bargaining chip to break U.S. neutrality. Zionist leaders approached the British government with a high-stakes offer. They would mobilize American support to push the U.S. into the war on Britain's side, provided the British promised them Palestine after the conflict ended. This intersection of needs brought both sides to the table. The British requirement for military reinforcement balanced the Zionist requirement for land, resulting in a documented gentleman's agreement. Years later, the people involved documented this arrangement. In 1936, World Zionist Organization Secretary Samuel Landman described a secret message sent to Supreme Court Justice Louis Brandeis to broker the deal in America. British officials corroborated this timeline. In a 1923 memorandum to the British cabinet, Colonial Secretary Lord Cavendish stated the agreement's goal was to enlist influential Jewish sympathy to advance the date of U.S. intervention. Former British Prime Minister David Lloyd George testified to a British commission in 1935 that Zionists gave a definite promise to rally support for the Allied cause, and that they kept their word. These accounts from high-level officials describe a specific transaction where American intervention became a primary objective of Zionist diplomacy. The focus on this agreement had direct consequences. In May 1917, the U.S. State Department received a report that a war-weary Ottoman Empire might be willing to make a separate peace with Britain. While such a peace would have saved lives, it presented a conflict of interest. Ending the war would prevent Britain from acquiring Palestine, the very land promised in the Zionist agreement. The State Department dispatched former Ambassador Henry Morgenthau to pursue this peace. However, American Zionist Felix Frankfurter joined the delegation and persuaded Morgenthau to abandon the mission entirely. U.S. State Department officials later noted that Zionists had worked to scuttle this diplomatic effort to protect their future interests in Palestine. These back-channel efforts culminated in 1917 with the Balfour Declaration, where the British officially promised a national home for the Jewish people. Edited over 2 years by British and American Zionists, drafts circulated globally to refine the exact language. This chart visualizes the demographic reality of the time. The document used the label "existing non-Jewish communities" for a group that actually made up 92% of Palestine's population. The declaration served as a calculated wartime measure designed to capture American sympathy and secure British strategic interests in the Near East. This 1917 agreement established a framework that has influenced a century of regional conflict. The records of the Great War indicate that shifts in global policy often trace back to these specific, documented exchanges between high-level officials. Thank you for joining me for this investigation on the Bookish Breakdown. If you found this detailed history useful, please like the video and subscribe. Let us know below what you found most interesting about the origins of the Balfour Declaration, and I'll see you in the next video.